And what is up, Peter Peeps? Welcome into the Wednesday edition of the PeterCast here in week number 11. This is, of course, your number one spot for all things involving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers news, analysis, takes, hot and otherwise, and everything else that involves your Super Bowl champions. I am Steve Carney. Joining me, as always, is our boy Ren Dax. Ren, how has your week been? Just want to check in with you. It's been kind of crazy. This has been a weird Wednesday for me, but it's been a weird week for you, I know.
Yeah, it's been a weird week. Starting a new job. It's great. I got to get up and get out of the house usually when I'm going to bed. So that was a big change. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like it. I like people I work with. It's great. I was telling you, Steve, I just started the story for Zach joined us and I brought him in the show. They do sort of like these monthly, once a month. I guess that's the same thing. I don't know, like they just do stuff. And it was my third day was today, and today was gardening. And we have this sort of like park in the back. I work in like an industrial complex. Like I work in shipping now, and like we make stuff, and so it's pretty rare for America. But yeah, so there's this park back there, and it was like a gardening seminar, and it's a catered lunch, and everyone that went who signed up for it got a plant. And I'm like, I want to go.
I want a catered lunch and a plant.
I want a plant. But anyway, yeah, it's super cool. But yeah, so that's what's been going on with me. You sound a little different.
I sound a little different because this is last resort studio time for me. My internet has decided it wanted to crap the bed. Thank you, Spectrum. And so I am on the iPhone sitting in the bedroom with a little phone, and just going off the headphones tonight. So my apologies if I sound a little different. It's going to be a little different here today anyway, because the Buccaneers, for the first time in, oh goodness gracious, probably more than a calendar year, are on a 2-game losing streak after dropping last week's game to the Washington football team in Landover, Maryland. And now they will get a team this week who is coming off a bye and now has had 2 weeks to prepare for them. That is the New York Football Giants. And since this is Wednesday, this is when we normally go across the field and look at this week's opponent. And to do that with us, we've got Zach Blatt from NJ.com, the Newark Star-Ledger. He covers the Giants on a daily basis. Zach, first off, welcome to the show. I hope you had a great bye week, because I know you got a chance to kind of disconnect, and probably was good for you.
Yeah. I was telling you earlier, I was down in sort of your guys' neck of the woods. I was in St. Augustine, so I was in Florida, going right back this week for the game. Yeah, it was nice to unplug for a little bit, and then we even get. I mean, the Giants practice today, but we get there's an extra day with a Monday night game as well, since it's later in the week. So I'm ready to get back and finish off the second half of the season for sure.
I hear St. Augustine's the oldest city in America. Is that true?
Yes, they advertise that everywhere in town. So in case you forget.
We were joking about that before we started the show. We always start off our Wednesday shows when we have a guest from the other side, especially if it's someone that we've never had on the PeterCast before. You are covering the Giants on a daily basis for one of the top news organizations in the country, one of the biggest news organizations in the country. But you weren't always there. So tell us how you got to be where you are right now. And you can go back as far as you want. You can go all the way back to, hey, I wanted to be a football reporter since I was, old enough to know what a first down was, if you want to, but feel free.
Yeah, well, I am originally from New Jersey, from Cherry Hill, which is down towards Philadelphia. So I grew up around all the Philadelphia teams. In terms of like sports writing, like I really did know I wanted to be a sports writer as a kid. My parents used to subscribe me to like all the like Sports Illustrated, Sports Weekly. Like, we had all the newspapers. I would read every sports section. So I'd be in the car just reading newspapers. And before I knew it, I wanted to be a sport. Like I was reading these articles before I knew even what a byline was. Like, so that's always been what I wanted to do. Maybe not necessarily football. I was always like an NBA fan. Allen Iverson was like my guy. But I loved football as well and grew up watching the Eagles and all that stuff. But and then I went out to school actually in Arizona at the University of Arizona. And then I stayed out there for like 4 years covering the University of Arizona football and basketball. I was in college I crossed over with Gronk for like 1 year at Arizona. It was when he like took a year off for his back injury or whatever. But I have plenty of friends that have stories about him, just like living next to him and all the funny, shenanigans he would get into. But I was out in Arizona for 4.5 years, and then I had the opportunity to come back here, covered the Sixers briefly. Then I got moved over to the Eagles, which I covered for 2 years, and then I got moved over to the Giants, which this is my second season covering the Giants now.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned Allen Iverson. I went to Syracuse, and I was there when Allen was at Georgetown. So
nice.
we crossed paths a couple of times over the course of the years, and also having covered the Eagles, I had my paths crossed multiple times with Donovan McNabb because we were both there at the same time. So it is funny when you start mentioning those guys, and it's like, yeah, I remember those guys back in the day. That is for sure. But now being with the Giants, and we talked about you coming off the bye week. You've had 2 weeks now the team's had 2 weeks now to get ready for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But they go into the bye week on a pretty good roll. They won 2 of their last 3 games going into the bye, and the only loss they had was by a field goal at Kansas City. So I'm going to ask you a one-word question about that. How did they get where it seems like they aren't going to end up being the Detroit Lions because they started off 0-5? What did Joe Judge and the coaching staff and the players do to kind of, I won't say right the ship, but kind of get the bleeding stopped?
It's almost been identical to how things played out last year. It just happened a little bit earlier. And last year, it actually started after they lost to the Buccaneers in that really close game, which was, I think, a turning point for both teams, it seemed like, is that the Giants had played their best rest of the way. The Bucs obviously did what they did. The Giants really thought they should have won that game, and that was something they thought about all year, I know. But what happened last year has happened this year. That's the defense. The defense started off really bad this year. It was very surprising because the way it ended last year. And then Patrick Graham did what he did last year, which was that he simplified the defense a little bit. And now he's putting guys in position to make plays and get pressure. And their defense has been the driving force behind these 3 games because the offense still isn't scoring, which, was an issue last year. It's an issue this year. They've yet to score 30 points in a game with Jason Garrett as offensive coordinator. They're the only team in the NFL since last year to not do that. The defense, they're making turnovers. They're pressuring the passer, which they weren't doing for a long time. They've kind of found some diamonds in the rough in terms of that stuff. They've had guys like Xavier McKinney come up in the clutch. He had 2 interceptions in their last game. So it really just comes down to their defense has been stepping up. And if their offense can meet them halfway even, they have a chance that they'll at least be in most of the games they play the rest of the way. But I don't have a lot of confidence in the offense doing that because they haven't done it yet. So.
All right, well, let's talk about the offense. I mean, Danny Dimes' first start was in Raymond James Stadium, and that's where he got his nickname, Danny Dimes, because
for him,
we made him look like a Hall of Famer. And then pretty much, and you might be painting with a wide brush, but pretty much it's been kind of downhill since then. How's he played this year? Where are the fans? I always like to ask these questions through the eyes of the fans, basically to let you off the hook a little bit. But how do the fans feel about Daniel Jones and how his career's gone as a Giants signal caller?
Well, I should say he won that game. I think he's only won 10 of his last 35 games since.
Okay, so not good.
Yeah, so not great. Most of those wins are like in division and not against good. This year he had a great win against the Saints. And they had, win against the Panthers, and they've had a couple of good wins this year. But yeah, it's been, it's so interesting. It's so hard to evaluate the guy because I think he has shown that he's made a lot of strides this year. He shows some there's some moments where I'm like, man, he could be good in the right situation, but he always has you can't make excuses for a guy for too many years, and he's in his third year, and I don't know, at some point you just have to decide if he's the guy and if he can help you win. But their offensive line has been a disaster. All their weapons keep getting hurt, although those are all injury-prone guys, so that's kind of on the Giants. There's been a lot of drops. Saquon Barkley hurt again, inconsistencies in the running game. So, everything around him is kind of crumbling. And yet he still managed to play pretty well for the most part. He's still turning the ball over a little bit. But ultimately, they're getting to the point where they need to decide if they're going to use that 5th-year option on him. And I don't know if they've seen enough quite yet where they can decide that. So it's not ideal. The second half of the season is going to say a lot. How he plays against the Bucs is going to say a lot. And I don't necessarily think the offensive struggles are on him, though he certainly plays a role. The offensive line and Jason Garrett's play calling, I think, have been the biggest culprits.
Well, let's start with the play calling. Why? Like, why has the play calling been one of the biggest culprits?
It's just they're very conservative, and that partially goes on Joe Judge too. They're very conservative. They haven't shown a whole lot of creativity. I think some of it has to do with the fact that they don't trust their offensive line, so they feel like they have to get rid of the ball quickly and stuff like that, and they just don't take shots downfield. And I think there are teams that have bad offensive lines that are still taking shots downfield. So I don't necessarily agree with their logic there. And the running game just hasn't been consistent enough. So he's not great at scheming his wide receivers open. Like you see a lot of curl routes and things like that, which frustrate fans a lot, and they frustrated Cowboys fans, I believe, back in their day. So I think there are games where he's shown signs of he has some things in his bag where they can get creative and they can do some interesting things. But when they get into the red zone in particular, they struggle. I think they're the worst red zone scoring team in the NFL this year. I believe they were last year as well, or they were second worst behind the Jets last year. So that's a problem. They have these long drives where they get into the red zone, don't get a touchdown, settle for a field goal, even if they maybe shouldn't go for a field goal. And that's been frustrating, I would say.
I want to
Go ahead.
I want to ask about Saquon Barkley. Injury, missed 4 games, and then had the false positive COVID test that caused him to miss the game against the Raiders. I'm assuming that they are expecting him to be 100% to go on Monday night. And how big is that going to be to get him back?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge largely because they're running out of options. Devontae Booker is also hurt right now. He has a hip injury.
Mm-hmm.
He looked pretty good the last 2 weeks. He's not Saquon Barkley in terms of talent, but like you can win with last year they played well with a guy like Wayne Gallman when Saquon was out. Like, offense can work without Saquon, but he adds a lot to it, especially in the passing game where they need pass catchers right now. So they really need him to play on Monday. They need him to play all 4 quarters, which clearly hasn't been a guarantee in his career. But he's gonna be a major boost to this offense, especially now that they have Kenny Galladay and Kadarius Toney back. Evan Ingram's playing. I don't know if Sterling Shepard will play or not, but if he does, then you have all these guys. And if Andrew Thomas is coming back, which is a possibility as well, then at least you have all these options there. And Daniel Jones's life should be a little bit easier against a good defense, obviously.
Well, the Bucs have faced the Giants, last year, and then the Danny Dimes year. And the Giants have always been able to run the ball more successfully than just about any team the Bucs have faced, especially in the Todd Bowles era, which we're talking about last year, with a player like Wayne Gallman. With the offensive line being as beat up, and we'll just say not a tier 1 offensive line this year, do you expect that the Giants are gonna? And this is kind of a very broad question. It's a little early in the week to ask it, but do you think that the game plan is going to be sort of like clock control and 4 yards in a clouds of dust? Because again, the Giants, even in the Danny Dimes game, the Giants seem to be able to bully the Bucs defense and knock them off the ball and get like a yard and a half, 2 yards before there's any contact on the running back, which is completely opposite of what happens to most other teams when they try to run the ball.
Yeah, I would say generally that their goal is to just run the clock down. I think they actually like having long drives. I think that maybe that's the thing the team says that isn't very good at getting deep plays or whatever. But I think that is they like getting 5 yards of play as opposed to getting a trying to go for all these 50-yard bombs or whatever. So I think you're gonna see them try to do that. And the interesting thing about Saquon versus a guy like Devontae Booker is that Devontae, they're getting a lot of those like 4 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards. Whereas Saquon, it's a lot of times it's 30 yards or it's 1 yard or a loss of yards. So they need Saquon to not have as many of those negative plays as he has had this season. He started to look like himself a little bit in that Saints game. Then he got hurt, and we haven't really seen him since. But yeah, I think they're going to try and run it down the Bucs as much as they can. I'm sure you guys see this a lot of weeks where they don't want Tom Brady on the field for too long, if that's possible.
Right.
But yeah, I would imagine a run-heavy plan for sure.
Now, of course, the drawback with that is you face a lot of third downs, hopefully a lot of third downs and shorts. And then with that sort of philosophy, you get a holding penalty, and it's almost like a sack. It's like a drive killer.
You're totally right.
So is the team disciplined enough to have 3+ of these long 5-7 yard drives and go 75 65 yards and punch it in the end zone, or you know they're just too undisciplined? And if they do get a holding penalty or something like that, what we'll call a drive killer, uh, do they have the offense to be able to overcome like a 2nd and 20?
Uh, are they disciplined enough? I would say probably not.
Okay.
And do they have the offense to? I mean, they have like the personnel to like they have talented guys on this offense. Like Kenny
Right.
Galladay is really good down the field in his career.
Right.
Darius Toney can make guys miss to a great degree, but they barely targeted those guys in their last game. So it's a matter if they use their personnel the right way, I think they certainly can do those things. But I don't know that they believe in their offensive line's ability to block defensive line for line. I know the Bucs are pretty banged up on their D line, right? So maybe in theory that changes some of the thought process. But yeah, I'm definitely concerned about the offense's ability to do what they want to do in this game.
All right, so if they're not targeting Galladay and Kadarius Toney, who has Daniel Jones been looking at to try and get the pass game going?
Well, it's a complicated question because every week it's like a new set of guys that are injured and guys that aren't.
Okay.
They have started to target the tight ends a little bit more. For a little bit they've gone away from them, so that's like Kyle Rudolph and Evan Ingram. They targeted Devontae Booker quite a bit last week, and that's the thing. They really didn't target the wide receivers the most recent game. I don't think that's a thing that'll happen every week. Like when Sterling Shepard's in there, he's getting most of the targets.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I mean, they should be targeting the receivers more this week, especially the Bucs corners are banged up right now too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They've been without Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting since almost the beginning of the season.
Oh wow,
Richard Sherman just got put on IR today.
I saw that too. Okay, yeah. So then in theory they should be targeting their receivers more this week, and you hope you get Kadarius Toney in particular. Like he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. I'm very curious to see how they use him against the Bucs and how the Bucs defend him. So yeah, I mean, so again, it goes back to they have the talent to do these things, but it's just a matter of if they use it the right way.
So let's flip to the other side of the ball. I mean, when you think about the Giants, especially in the Eli years, it's in the Bill Parcells, it's defense. The defense would keep this team in games and would be feared, or vastly underrated. I guess would be a way to play. I remember this is a while ago, but I remember Jason Sehorn one time came up to the podium and said, "Yeah, it's weird how everyone plays their worst game against us." Because everyone's like, "Wow, like, what? How do we what happened? Oh, that's a fluke." And he's like, "Well, why does everyone have their fluke game against our defense? Like, think about that." But yeah, so is that what it is? I mean, I feel like I'm kind of out of the loop on who they have, to be honest. So who are some of the playmakers? How are they doing? And the question I always like to ask is, the defensive line, the linebackers, or the secondary, if you could hang your hat on who's the best unit, who would you do? Where's their rock solid unit of those three?
It's interesting. I would say on paper it should be the secondary. They have James Bradbury who's in the Pro Bowl last year. Dory Jackson they spent a lot of money on.
Right.
He's pretty good this year for them. Xavier McKinney starting to come into his own, and you have Logan Ryan who's a veteran. I think the secondary struggled at times. Bradbury's not having a great year. So the defensive line, they have Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence are the two main guys because they do like a 3-4 type thing.
Okay.
And Leonard has been really good. I think he's played pretty much at the level he did last year. Although at first he wasn't getting the sacks, but he has 5.5 now. He's a guy that opposing offenses are going to scheme to try and stop. And so Patrick Graham, they're very young edge rushers, and so Patrick Graham's had to get creative and getting those guys at the quarterback, and that involves Dexter Lawrence and Leonard eating up blocks. So you have a rookie and Azeez Ojulari who has 5.5 sacks. He's had pretty inconsistent, but he's been good. And the rest of a lot of their inside linebackers, they're all like replacement players because Blake Martinez tore his ACL early in the season. So they've gotten a guy like Bernardrick McKinney off the scrap heap, and he's already probably going to be, if not a starter, close to it. And they have guys in the 7th round last year starting there, and so they have had some injuries. Jabril Peppers is out for the year. And they've had a couple other guys banged up. Yeah, I would say the secondary is their most talented, and their defensive line has probably been their most consistent, probably.
Okay. And chat's, pretty much asking the question that was on top of my list when we got to the defense. Is Bradbury going to travel, and is he going to travel with Mike Evans?
They generally don't do a whole lot of traveling, but I think last year he covered Mike Evans. He struggled. I think that was his worst game last year, actually, when he on Mike Evans. Now they have a Dory. They I don't think they feel like they need to travel necessarily as much. So maybe he does a little bit, but I don't think it'll be like the entire game type thing, is what I would say.
Okay. All right.
You mentioned Ojulari, the second round pick. I always like to ask about how the rookies have picked up the system going through now that we're halfway through the season. You've gotten through the bye week now, and the one that I was looking at was Aaron Robinson, the third round pick playing in the secondary. As he talked about, how trying to pick up the system and how much guys like Bradbury and Jackson mean to try and help a guy in his first year trying to pick things up?
Well, he had a tough offseason because he had a core muscle injury that he
That always
suffered.
sucks.
I believe in the rookie mini camp, and he had surgery on in the summer. He missed all of training camp, was on PUP to start the year. So he really didn't get his first practice until a couple weeks ago. They threw him right into his first game after he was activated.
Mm-hmm.
He looked pretty lost out there. I think again, he didn't play at all in training camp.
Yeah.
I know the coaching staff loves the kid. I think he was going to be their nickel guy day one if he hadn't gotten hurt. They love his smarts. They always rave about how tough he is. But yeah, I think that room, there are really good leaders in there, especially guys like Logan and James Bradbury that are definitely taking him under the wing. I think the Giants are really high in his potential. I think you'll slowly see him by the end of the year probably be their number one nickel. But they're easing him in because, like I said, he just missed so much time, and he's like learning it on the fly essentially. But yeah, I know the team is very high in him for sure.
You talked at the beginning of the show about the Giants' awful start, and you said the defense wasn't playing that well.
Yeah.
So that would indicate that they're playing better. What happened? Who stepped up? Did they change something? Like, what can you point to that would be, the biggest reason why the defense has at least improved from the start of the season?
Yeah, one thing you hear is that Patrick Graham a complex defense, and he kind of simplified it, and he's using.
Right.
But the biggest thing is the pass rush has been better. I would say they started out the season. They have a couple guys they drafted a few years ago, and Lorenzo Carter and O'Shane Zimonez that were not getting any. They had 0 sacks and quite a lot of snaps and not many pressures. And those guys are both either injured or benched right now. And they've had a guy in Ojulari who's kind of stepped up as their number one pass rusher, and they have a guy they claimed off waivers after training camp, Quincy Roche, who played down in Miami last year. Yeah, he was cut by the Steelers. He's a 6th-round pick, and he's emerged. He had the game-winning strip sack a couple weeks ago against the Raiders, and he's looked pretty good. He's kind of emerged. So that I think the biggest thing is they've been able to generate a pass rush. They've got Patrick Graham. One thing you hear every week after they have a great game defensively is that he confused the opposing quarterback. You saw that with Derek Carr, with Sam Darnold. So he gets really creative in his schemes to try and throw the quarterback off. Not many defensive coordinators are going to throw up Tom Brady, obviously.
Right.
Though the Giants did a pretty good job against him last year in that game.
Yeah.
I think they only scored like 23 points or whatever it was.
Yeah, there's a dirty little. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm good.
There's a dirty little secret down here. Like Tom Brady has some stinker games.
Yeah.
He does, and we had some last year, and he's had some this year. And
how dare he, though? He's Tom Brady.
Exactly, right? But I've already gotten that, and he's only been here a year. Imagine 20. So, but it's also unfair because here's what more happens than not is it's really like a stinker game is really not fair. He'll have stinker halves. Where you're like you're throwing you're completing 50% of your balls, and you have like an interception or two, and at the end of the game he's got 4 touchdowns, and you end up winning by 4 points, and you're just
Joe Judge was actually asked about that specific topic today, like how there's a lot of times where Tom Brady will go into half looking like he's struggling, then come out and he's himself again in the second. He just adjusts something and he's off to the. I think that happened last year actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so it happened last week. He looked like a 44-year-old man in the first half and came out and looked much better in the second half. It's just the defense fell apart.
The thing is, he's like 5 years older than Joe Judge, I think, or 4 years older than Joe Judge. I mean, that's going to happen now, but it's still crazy to think about.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. He's old. He's older than his offensive coordinators now. I'm assuming that
He's
if
the
he
oldest
sticks
guy on
around,
the team.
he's the oldest guy in the league, I think.
Yeah, at this point, he's got to
I
be.
hope so. Is
So, well, because
Bland is
Adam,
not still playing, is he?
yeah, Adam Vinatieri isn't around anymore, so can't judge it on that. Um, with the pass rush, how are they handling the pass rush? Are they just is it that they're getting pass rush with say 3 or 4, or are they bring extra blitzes and dropping different guys into coverage? How's that working?
Yeah, well, I think they just show a lot of different looks, and they'll send various. Jurel Peppers is injured. He was a big guy they would send a lot. And a lot of it is they have the guys up front, taking on blocks and then setting free those outside linebackers that are blitzing. They don't do a whole lot of blitzing necessarily, although it's like a week to week type thing, I would say. But yeah, it's a lot of just like generating it through scheme as more than like blitzing a bunch of guys.
Okay. Steve, do you want to ask your special teams question that you ask every week?
Yes, I always ask about the kickers.
Drives me crazy.
And
A couple weeks ago, we were talking about the
Joe
weather.
Judge loves that you do that, I'm sure.
Why?
He loves nothing more than a special teams question.
No, I don't have a special teams question this week.
What?
Graham Gano. I don't. I know what to expect from Graham Gano. Normally, it's because the last couple of weeks we've had new kickers, and so but Graham Gano. He's old. He's an old man in the league. He's been around a decade. He's kicked.
He did have a stomach bug today and wasn't at practice. But
wow! I gotta tweet that out.
Yeah, no. The other question that I would have asked that would have driven Ren nuts would have been about Andrew Thomas, who I saw his return to practice, but he's not going to play for another 3 weeks. So
he could play still. He had his window to come back activated, so he was already on injured reserve. So he technically could play this week. I don't think he will. That'll be based on more if he actually practices the next couple of days. But I would guess he's not there on Monday night.
Okay, we always have this last question. We already warned you about it, but you said something that I need to know. I need a Gronk shenanigans stories that your friends at Arizona have told you about.
Oh man, so I don't remember the specific exact details. I do remember that I had friends that lived next door. I had a friend that lived next door to him. I think he said one time he just they were grilling hot dogs in their backyard, and he just came over and just started eating their hot dogs, and then
and then just left.
Just a goofy, fun guy.
You wonder how many got down before somebody realized that Gronk was out.
I did hear a story that actually unrelated to Arizona, just because I used to cover recruiting, and it was about how he was on a recruiting visit. I want to say to Pitt or something like that, or I think it might have been Pitt. I think because he was from that area, and he went on the tour. He was quiet the whole time, and they were showing him around, and then they finished the tour, and he just asked so where are all the girls at? He didn't care about the actual tour.
Where's the party?
Yeah, where's the party? Basically,
that's what I want. I don't care about the dorms. Don't care about the library.
Yeah.
Just show me where the party is.
Exactly.
Where's the care?
Because if you don't show me where the party is, I'm going to make the party. Because that's Gronk for you in a nutshell. All right. So,
sorry.
Here we go. It is
a special teams question.
It is the special teams question that we warned you about. No. Here we are. It's Monday night at Raymond James Stadium.
Midnight.
Or late or early Tuesday morning at Raymond James Stadium. The clock has hit 0 after the fourth quarter, and the Giants are now 3 out of their last 4 and going back to East Rutherford 3-6. How does it happen?
Yeah, I think it happens a lot like a few of their other wins have, and how the Buccaneers game almost did last year. I think it's their defense forces a couple turnovers. They get some points off those turnovers, and the offense doesn't make too many mistakes. So it's a lower scoring game. It's a 21-17 or 21-20 or something. It'd be a close, low scoring game. Is how the only way I see them. This is not a team that's built to win. 35 to 30 games, or the games that the Bucs get into sometimes. So if they somehow can get Brady to make mistakes and all that good stuff. Like that's how it happens.
If Brady doesn't throw any interceptions, do the Giants win?
If Brady doesn't throw any, no, they don't. Yeah,
No, it's impossible. 0%.
I wouldn't say that. But
Yeah, I know.
You got
Probably get
any?
3 Fournette fumbles.
Yeah. So it's what it would take. You're working on anything special for NJ.com and the Newark Star Ledger?
Well, one thing I was writing probably for tomorrow is that about how Daniel Jones has been. You think he's 0-8 or 0-7 in primetime games, so they need him. They need him to do a little better than that and end that streak this week, is what I would say.
Yeah, he sounds like a Buck.
Sounds like a former
they're-
Bucs quarterback that we've
Yeah,
had to deal
not
with.
even Bucs quarterback. The team history. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Jesus, we were
Yeah,
bad
the Giants
for
have had a
long
rough time in prime time and lately in general.
Yeah. The Lovey years, the Schiano years, the Dirk Cutter years, primetime did not serve the Buccaneers well. That is certainly the case. Well, you can follow Zach Rosenblatt on Twitter. He is at Zack Blatt on Twitter, and of course, you can read his stuff at nj.com. Some of them you actually don't even have to subscribe for, which is very nice. I always appreciate when I see oh, this one I don't have to pay $1 for. But
There you go.
exactly, Zach. We appreciate you giving us a couple of moments here, and enjoy the game on Monday night, and enjoy coming back to town.
Yeah, thanks guys, appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, Zach. That is Zach Rosenblatt of the Newark Star Ledger and NJ.com. Before we get into what we were most impressed about when it comes to or what surprised us about what Zach said, do want to mention the Pewtercast, of course, sponsored by our friends at BetUS.com. For 27 years, BetUS.com has been paying off all its winners. If it wasn't for the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers could not get a field goal to beat the Detroit Lions, I would have been 3-0 last week. As it was, 1-2. Sorry. And Ren had a rough week.
I listened to Barry again. Barry was like,
problem.
I know. As soon as I started listening to Barry, my whole life fell apart. We'll have him on Friday, so be sure to listen to him, guys.
Yeah. So, you know what? He did steer me right, because I was thinking about bumping the Chargers to get them to +3, and I decided to go the other way and took the Vikings and moved them to +9, which I was like, yeah, that was pretty smart. So I appreciate Barry for that. But BetUS.com, where you can get all of your NFL, college football, NBA, NHL, UFC, PGA, and of course, Ren's favorite, the ponies.
The ponies.
Absolutely. And you can get in a little bit of extra scratch thanks to us here at the Pewtercast when you sign up at BetUS.com. If you use the promo code Pewter, PEWTER, with the letter C and the number 125, you will get a 125% sign-up bonus. So you sign up, use the promo code. Again, it's Pewter, the letter C, and the number 125. Deposit $100, and you get $225 to make your wagers. And as I mentioned, 4 decades BetUS has been doing this now. 27 years in the business at BetUS. It is the best way to support the Pewtercast is by signing up with BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid with BetUS.
I think the thing that surprised me the most was Bradbury not traveling.
Yeah,
Of everything he said, because I'm pretty sure he traveled last year, and he used to travel with him when he was with the Panthers. It was like you had Lattimore with the Saints, and you had Bradbury with the Panthers, and it was going to be a good matchup. There had been some, games where Bradbury would get the better of Mike Evans, like Lattimore used to. Hasn't happened so much lately for Lattimore, and Bradbury. He's so up and down, man. Like 1 year, like last year, he makes the Pro Bowl, and the next year it's like It's like, why are we paying you? Like you should. Like, I don't even think you should be starting. And that's how he kind of got out of Carolina both times. Like they drafted him, got rid of him, brought him back, got rid of him again. So, that was the most interesting thing because honestly, everything else I was kind of like, yeah. It just kind of feels like we're listening to the other Zach on the Washington football team.
Yeah.
And it's just like the offensive line stinks. Quarterback's not very good. We don't have any weapons that can stay healthy. The secondary we're supposed to be sort of like our cornerstone. They've underperformed. Nobody really has linebackers like we do. There's a couple of teams out there, so that's never going to be the thing you hang your hat on any of these people we talk to. And then, and then they're like, well, we got edge rushers who are benched or are hurt, and then we have one guy who's kind of stepping up, and it's like...
Yeah, a rookie that's stepping up.
Yeah, and it's like, so how are you going to win the game? Well, Tom Brady's got to throw 19 interceptions, and Daniel Jones does not. And then we'll win, 15-14. It's like...
Yeah.
But that's how I felt going to last week. But what happened? Tom Brady threw 2 interceptions on back-to-back series, and Giants went up, 16-0 or something, and we just couldn't catch up because what do you feel about little sidebar? What do you feel about this crap that BA said after the game about we weren't going to throw the ball down the field, we can't get our quarterback hit? He got hit one time, and it happened to be on the first series. Like, what is that? So if anyone sacks Tom Brady in the first quarter, you're going to quit throwing the ball down the field? Like, I don't. That was such a fucking piece of crap answer.
I was going to say that is called a shitty game plan.
Yeah.
That's all that is. I mean, whoever designed that game plan needs to be taking that game plan away.
Take away their key fob.
No, don't take away the key fob, but take that game plan and throw it in the circular file because that was awful. You can't do that in the NFL nowadays and expect to win. You've got to take shots down the field,
especially when you're losing by 13 or 16.
If you're not taking shots down the field, all that's going to do is compress everybody into the box. Yeah. And now you're gonna have 11 on 9 or 7 on 5, and that's not going to work. You've got to be able to take shots down the field. It keeps the defense honest.
Is my camera out of focus or I just can't see?
Just
a little bit? Okay, yeah.
A little bit. It's okay. That works.
Screw it. Okay, so what surprised you?
I think the thing that surprised me the most is the fact that they weren't that the Giants weren't targeting their guys like Galladay and Kadarius Toney. Like, why are you not doing that? I mean, you've got Devontae. You're deciding to throw. That's the game plan the Bucs did last week. Why are you,
exactly.
To a much worse running back.
Maybe it was a virus that offensive coordinators caught last week.
That's another sorry excuse.
Jason Garrett gave Byron Leftwich the check down virus.
I like that.
Put it through his email.
But still, if you've got Kenny Galladay, a legitimate downfield threat, and you're not throwing to him, you're just a bad coach. That's a bad coaching decision.
Yeah, and especially since you got guys hurt, so you're playing. We know this, but our depth of wide receiver is kind of stupid, so it's not such a drop off. But if like Sterling Shepard's hurt and someone else talk about it hurt, so now you're down to 4 and 5 are out there when you're going 3 wide receiver sets, and you're not trying to scheme open, your number one guy. You're gonna have to force the ball a couple times to him.
What are you doing?
Yeah, what do you why are you throwing it to your 5th best wide receiver 9 times? Or maybe they just don't run it. And if they're, crappy offensive line. I think this is what I think is going to happen. A little early prediction. I think they're going to I thought the defense played very fast against Washington. Heineke matched it, and they got some lucky breaks, and then the 2 turnovers early. I don't think the defense played well.
I fell.
Because, especially that last drive, but it was just really weird because it would be like 2nd and 13, and then I'd look up, it'd be 3rd and 3, and they'd get it, and then they'd run the ball on first down again, and it'd be like 2nd and 11, and then they throw a 9-yard pass, and it's 3rd and 2, and they run the ball, and they'd get it. And it's like, and they just kept doing that over and over and over again. I think the pressure that they brought on Heineke when he was able to score him out a few times, they still got him down 5 times. I think they're going to do the same thing to Daniel Jones. And if the New York Giants offensive line is worse than Washington's, I think we're looking at, it sounds stupid because I just said it was going to happen. I think we're looking at like a Chicago Bear type game here.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely. I don't think that's such a silly assumption.
No, it's not silly, but I said kind of the same thing last week.
Yeah, well, there was one difference, and the difference was that Taylor Heineke made enough plays down the field to keep his offense on the field and keep Tom Brady on the sidelines for the fourth quarter.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. I understand, but they should have never gotten to that.
No, you're right. You should never have gotten to that.
If Bruce Arians just would have taken or kicked the ball.
Defer, you son of a bitch.
If he just would have deferred, we'd be undefeated. No, I'm just kidding. But there was that, and nothing else really surprised me, to be honest. No. I mean, you talk about Barkley. He just didn't have a lot of positive things to say, and I kind of in my head think the Giants aren't very good. And if he comes in and doesn't dispute any of that, then what's surprising?
No.
Yeah. So, yeah, it could be easy peasy lemon squeezy, kind of like this podcast was.
Yeah, this was definitely a lemon squeezy podcast, especially when I'm in last resort limbo here, and and you're like ready to drop dead because you have to be up in like 2.5 hours.
I know, it's so weird. It's so weird to get like 8 hours sleep. I have to go to bed at 7.
Yeah, that's not happening.
No, it's not happening. Oh, more like 8, closer to 8. But that ain't happening on a regular basis. It ain't happening. So yeah, I'm gonna be. I don't know how it's gonna go. Like on my days off, I might just like the first like Saturday, I might just like sleep till 2. Yeah. But I don't want that. I don't want to do that either. So
no, because it screws. That'll definitely screw you up. You know what's gonna end up happening is you're gonna end up doing what Emily does. My wife does. She takes what she likes to call old lady naps after work. Just like an hour.
Take a little siesta.
Little siesta when the work day is done, and then she's good because she doesn't have to get up as early as you, but she still gets up pretty early.
All right.
So might be worth it. But seeing as you do need to get because you've got to be up at before the butt crack of dawn.
Yes, I gotta be up in 5 hours and edit this and get it out.
So let's bounce on out of here and
okay, fine.
Do that. So let's.
If you wanna go, Steve, I'm willing to stay for the fans, for the peeps,
for the people.
Since you're the boss and you're kicking me out.
I don't want you screwing up.
I'm kidding. I'm tired. I want to go.
Go.
Best place to find me is at the Petercast on Twitter. I'm always down to take you, or no, that's not it. I'm always down to talk about Buccaneers football. But if your tweet is too hot and don't want to put out there on Twitter sphere, feel free to slide my DMs and I'll talk Buccaneers football there with you too as well. Also.
And you can also get me. I'm at Steve Carney, CP9.com. We've got a Rookie of the Year and a Manager of the Year win for Kevin.
Oh, who won Rookie of the Year?
Rosarena.
Did he?
Yeah.
Kind of wanted Franco to win it, but I understand.
As predicted on stpete9.com, Kevin Cash won Manager of the Year, as predicted on stpete9.com. So we're very happy about all of that. But you can get all of that. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and we really appreciate that. If you are on the pod, make sure that you are subscribed, which is very, very important. Leave us ratings and reviews. Thank you to BetUS.com for being our presenting sponsor, and also thank you to the Fansided Network for being the host of the Petercast. And we will be back on Friday to talk about the week that was practice-wise and get you ready for Monday night's game. And so until
I'm going to yell at Barry.
And yes, and Ren's going to yell at Barry because he lost again.
Okay.
It's gonna be should be fun. So definitely tune back in on Friday for that one. But until next time, until Friday, go buck yourself.